What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Game Script. We're looking at the Los Angeles Rams versus the Minnesota Vikings. It's the final wild card round game for the first round of the NFL playoffs, and it should be a pretty interesting game. We're looking at a high total on this one, and I think there are some ways that we can look to get a little bit different with our DraftKings Showdown lineups, and I'm going to get into it right after this. What's up, guys? Simon Edwards at Pumacom here with Heat Seeker Sports, and you're watching Game Script, looking at the Minnesota Vikings versus the Los Angeles Rams in this one. Got a 47.5-point total with the Rams as 2.5-point dogs in this one. They're quote-unquote home dogs in this one, but they're playing in Arizona due to the wildfires going on in the Los Angeles area right now. So going to be a little bit of fish out of water for Los Angeles at a different stadium for their home turf this week. But it should be an interesting game with a high total, looking at a 47.5-point total. Not the highest total on the slate, but a decent total for us. And these are two teams that have certainly been capable of putting up high-powered offenses throughout the season. So we'll be having some fun breaking this one down. Make sure to hit the like button. I'm looking for 30 likes to trigger my comments later on, and when we get closer to lock with my favorite picks in the comments section. And make sure to subscribe to the channel. I'm looking for 1,600 subscribers and need about 50 more to get there. And this has been a pretty good run in the wild card round. The show I did last night for the Washington Tampa Bay game, got the game script wrong in that one. I had Evans wrong in that one, but I did put Diami Brown pretty high on my list, and he ended up having a monster game. So hopefully some of you guys that still played Evans and were heavy on Evans ended up playing Diami Brown because of that too, and had a good game. I did not have a good slate for that particular one. I had complete fade on Evans, so hopefully you guys did better than I did and used that Diami Brown pick. So now let's get into the Monday night game. This is going to be, just another game where we can potentially find some opportunity to build our lineups a little bit differently than the field. I don't have ownership on me at the current time that I'm recording this. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning Central Time when I'm recording this. So if I seem discombobulated, that's probably the reason why. So let me call up some ownership on this so I can break it down. I got at least one ownership source that I can look at for projections here, but I don't really rely on it too much. It's not as accurate a source as I'm used to. So we'll get an idea, though, of maybe some of these plays that are going to be lesser owned that we can take advantage of. So when we're breaking down this game, we obviously want to start with Justin Jefferson. He's going to be the highest owned guy in the slate, and he's also the most expensive, especially in the captain. He's been up and down with some weeks this season. Last week, he only had 8.4, very poor offensive output in general by the Minnesota Vikings, despite Detroit's weakness weakness in their defense with all the injuries they have going on. But Justin Jefferson, he played against a corner that he played against in high school, or that he was on the same team with in high school or something. And the guy knew how to play him, and he only had 8.5 DraftKings points in that game. So coming off of a bad week, look for Justin Jefferson to bounce back in this one. Though the Rams are pretty weak against wide receiver ones, and I would expect Justin Jefferson to have a decent game in this one. According to Rich Rebar over at Sharp Football Analysis. Check out his article, by the way. I believe it's free for this game. The Rams played two high safeties the last time that they faced the Vikings on 53% of the passing plays in that game. And Jefferson leads the team with 30% of the targets against that type of coverage. So, the coverage in general should be pretty good against Jefferson in this one. Jefferson should have a matchup advantage in this one, and that's going to help lead this one to be a higher scoring game potentially. But I do like Justin Jefferson in this one to have a decent game. Puka Nacua, he made his return in that last game against Minnesota. He came off of injury and he ended up having 21 DraftKings points. Kind of unexpected. I thought he was going to be a decoy. I remember I did that game for a Showdown episode. I did not have Puka Nacua in my lineups, and it bit me in the ass. And Puka Nacua ended up having a pretty big game. I think he ended up being the captain in that game. And the Minnesota Vikings are giving up 24.3 DraftKings points a game to wideouts. So that's going to help Puka Nacua to have a decent matchup in this one. It's going to be difficult for us to get all these studs in this week. Kyren Williams, another one of these studs, but Minnesota's better against the run. Kyren Williams potentially will be lower owned in the captain, though. If we see a discount on him in the captain, that's going to open the door for us to potentially use him as a captain option. But he is expensive too. 15,600 in that captain spot for Kyren Williams, third highest price guy on the slate. With Sam Darnold, he's been up and down. Last week, terrible game against Detroit, but for the most part, he's put up 20 plus DraftKings points. He does have those weeks though where he has those scary single point weeks. I think that Sam Darnold can have a decent game in this one. Last game he played against the Rams, he ended up with 18.2 DraftKings points. I don't know if that's going to be enough to get him in the optimal this week with all these studs, but Sam Darnold will definitely be in play this week. Same with Cooper Kupp. Cooper, very, very weak season compared to what we're used to with him. Past 3 weeks hasn't even cracked double-digit points. He had that 120-point week mixed in there in the past 5 weeks, but beyond that, he's just been single digits for the last few weeks. This is a matchup that the Vikings are allowing 34% target rate to slot receivers. So the targets are going to be there for him. And it's just a matter of if we see a good, the vintage Cooper Kupp, or we see, the more recent version of Cooper Kupp in this game. But it seems like even in those matchups where the slot seems like the obvious target for the Rams, they end up going with Puka Nacua. So it's very hard to get away from Puka over Cooper Kupp. Matthew Stafford has similar situation as Cooper Kupp. He's just been it's kind of a down season for him. A lot of single-digit weeks, but he is capable, as you can see from this box scores, of putting up 27 DraftKings points was his high on the season. So Matthew Stafford is going to be in play, but maybe to a lesser extent than these other high-priced guys. Maybe more for salary relief if we can't get Sam Darnold in there, and we're a couple thousand shy of that, and we want to get a quarterback in our lineups. But the quarterbacks in general, like being this expensive, let's see them in the flex. $9K for Stafford and $9,600 for Darnold. I don't think we necessarily need quarterbacks in this particular game. I think there's too many high-powered PPR guys that we can get in our lineups at higher prices that may not leave us salary to get these guys in, and I don't think they're guys that we need to force in our lineups. Aaron Jones is another guy for us this week. He's going to be in the better running back matchup, with the Rams giving up 22 DraftKings points a game to the running back position. Jones has been getting some competition from Cam Akers, though, in the red zone. So, Jones isn't a lock by any means, but he's 8K, so that's pretty cheap. Jordan Addison, here's another guy that's pretty cheap. He's been getting double-digit points for most of the season. He's had a monster 42-point game already this season, so he's definitely capable of putting up some points for us. And he has that Rams defense that he's going against. He only got 4.2 DraftKings points in the last game they faced off against each other. Rams are only allowing 19.1 DraftKings points a game to wideouts and 10.4 to slots the last 4 weeks. So they've been a better defense than they were in the beginning of the season. As far as Sam Darnold, they're giving up 17.6 DraftKings points a game to the quarterback position. So the guy that has a more interesting matchup is going to be TJ Hawkinson in the tight end. The Rams are giving up, I believe, the highest target share to tight ends in the league. And Hawkinson is down at 5,600. He's pretty cheap for us. He's some salary relief. Rams also giving up 12.7 DraftKings points a game to the tight end position. So Hawkinson could be in play for us on this slate. Let's see. As far as other guys that are interesting, both kickers will be interesting in this one. We see Rijkaard, double-digit points in his last 4 straight. And he's had double-digit points throughout the season in a bunch of games, so he's definitely in play. And Cardi, he had 17 DraftKings points last week. Not as many double-digit DraftKings points for Cardi, but he's definitely in play too. Cam Akers taking that work away from Aaron Jones in the end zone. He could sneak in there for a touchdown, but 4,400 is pretty steep price to pay for him. Like, we need to get like another one of these. Well, 11 points seems to be what his ceiling's been so far this season. I don't know if that'd be enough to get in the optimal this week. Demarcus Robinson, last game he played against Minnesota, he had 2 touchdowns. So he's definitely in play, and that increased passing volume that teams put up against Minnesota. A guy like Demarcus Robinson has the potential to get some usage in this one. He had 2 weeks in a row with two receiving touchdowns. So Demarcus Robinson is definitely in play, and he's cheap. Jalen Naylor is capable of putting up double-digit points too. If we're looking for these cheap guys to help get in our studs, he's at 3,600. Had 19 DraftKings points in his a couple weeks ago against Green Bay. I had him recommended in that Detroit game, and despite, I think he ended up being in that game, he ended up being the highest scoring wide receiver. And, they just had a terrible game in general, but he ended up with 8 DraftKings points, which I think ended up outscoring Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Let me check on Jordan Addison's. Yeah, Jordan Addison only had 1 point, and Justin Jefferson had 8.4. So, yeah, Jalen Naylor, I recommended him, and he ended up being the highest scoring guy as far as wide receivers for the Vikings. I don't think it was enough to get us anywhere, but just goes to show he's a decent part of this passing game, and he's at 3,600, and we're looking for cheap guys this week. Higbee made his return a couple weeks ago. He's had 2 receiving touchdowns so far since he's been back. Had 15.6 DraftKings points against Seattle. But all the backups basically for the Rams were playing versus Seattle. Other than that, I don't really see too much interesting as far as these cheap guys. No one I'd really dumpster dive for. So let's get into building this lineup. As far as the defenses, I think the defenses could both be in play this week. I'm not as high on them as I am on the kickers, though. All right, so let's build this lineup. I think Justin Jefferson will probably be the highest owned guy on the slate for the captain position. We want to get Puka in there too. Kyron Williams, I don't think we necessarily need to jam him in. Let's try to jam in Aaron Jones, though. I'm not too worried about the quarterbacks in this one, but if you want, you can try to get Sam Darnold in there. We're gonna have to go cheap at this point. So we got Sam Darnold in there. Maybe we put in Naylor in there too. Leaves us with 1,700. Puts us in a tough spot because there's not a lot of good options down in this range. Oliver, maybe Freeman with Blake Corum out now. Royce Freeman could be interesting. He's a guy that's never really lived up to his expectations. He was an early draft pick and just never lived up to his pedigree. All right, so let's swap out maybe Aaron Jones for Cam Akers. Let's say Cam Akers, ends up getting a touchdown or something in this one. It's going to leave us with 5,300. At that point, we can put in one of these kickers. In general, you could also get Robinson in this one. In general, not really a huge fan of this direction, but that's a direction you can go if you want to start Justin Jefferson in that captain spot. You could probably swap out Puka Nacua with the same results. And if you do that, maybe swap out Sam Darnold for Matthew Stafford as your quarterback. But let's clear this out. Let's look at these cheaper options for a captain. Let's go with Aaron Jones against this Rams defense. Let's get Jefferson and Puka in there. Let's get, since I got Jones in there, let's go ahead and get Stafford in there to go with Puka. Let's get Higbee in there. As he's had a little too many touchdowns recently. Let's get Naylor in there. That leaves us with 3,800. So we got options like the Rams D. We could get Higbee in there at that point. Options like that. Still not quite enough to get the studs that we want in there. So let's go with Addison in the captain. Addison, one of these mid-range receivers, Hawkins. Let's get Hawkinson in there. Let's say Hawkinson has his breakout game in this one. Let's get Jefferson. Let's get Nacua. Let's get Darnold since we got two of those receivers. That kind of builds itself. Leaves us with 5,200. Let's get a kicker in there. Let's put in Cardi. I want to put in Cardi because the firepower that we already have here on the Vikings side, that's going to leave us with 5,600, and that can get us Cam Akers. If we wanted to take out, if we wanted, instead of doing that, let's go with let's see what happens if we can put in Aaron Jones. Leaves us with 2,400. If we drop down to Stafford, that would leave us with 3K, and that would give us an opportunity to put in Higbee, go double tight end, which might make more sense if we wanted to get Jones in there. But you can kind of see the studs options that is leaving for us if we go in that direction. Leaves us with Higbee as an option. And he's about as low as I want to go, honestly. I don't really see any other guys that I'd rather go with, but Cam Akers might be the way to do it. You get Cam Akers in there, and you can get one of these kickers. He is questionable, so keep an eye on Cam Akers' status as we get closer to lock. But we get the kickers options, and we get the Naylor option, Higbee. We got Tutu Atwell. We got Demarcus Robinson. Just a bunch of options if we go in this direction. I like using the cheaper captain. on these shootout type of games, and Hawkinson is due for a big game, and he's facing off against a team that's susceptible to the tight end position. I do like Hawkinson in this one. I think he makes a decent captain. I think Jordan Addison makes an interesting captain too. If I put Addison, I want to get Darnold back in there since I'm double stacking him with Justin Jefferson. That direction leaves us with 3,900. I'd probably want to get a Rams guy in there at this point. So it'd be like Higbee would be my top option. I don't want to go 5-1 Minnesota. I don't think it's warranted. If we wanted to get rid of Akers, you get Hawkinson in there. That leaves us with 2,700. Maybe we don't. I was going to say maybe we don't even need a quarterback in this one. Let's go to Stafford. See what that does. Stafford leaves us with 3,300, so that puts us in that Higbee range again. So that might be the better way to go. Like putting Stafford instead of Darnold at least gives us Higbee as an option. And I don't think there's going to be much of a difference between Stafford and Darnold, honestly, even if you have those Minnesota receivers in the captain spot. Stafford and Darnold are pretty much going to score about the same amount anyways. And you just got to go for which guy fits in your lineup. So make sure to hit that like button. Give me the 30 likes to trigger my comments in the comment section later on with my favorite picks, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. Help me get to 1,600 subscribers. Only need about 50 left. And Hawkinson is my main takeaway in this one. I think Hawkinson, keep an eye on his ownership in the captain, but he's so cheap and he has so much upside, and he's due for a big game, and this is the perfect matchup for it. And that's probably where I'm going to be leaning for some heavy exposure in this one. But good luck, guys, and hit that like button.